Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. It's Wednesday. It's August the 7th. This will be our chart lesson for today. And really what I saw, that I believe that there was a kind of a downsloping trend channel here. But really the gist of the day is it's a trading range day. We started out in this range right here, and we got an equal distance range just below it, and then we got back in the upper range and we stayed there the rest of the day. And that's really what I was looking at. There is a channel working up here as well, and there's a channel here, and you can see these shorter term ones that I drew in there as well. But for the gist of the trading day, this is what I saw, the two-tiered trading range. But I also believe there's a bigger channel here with like a midpoint in here, and you can see that it got in this lower part and it kind of held in there, and then it got in the upper part and it tried to go lower, but there were just, once we made this low here, there was just too much buying, and you could see it coming right here. You really could. And then when we got back down here and couldn't make as low a low as before, that wasn't a good sign. But they struggled to get it back through this median line, and you see we went through it, came back and tested it. It found resistance up here. It tried to break through a few times. It came back and tested this area right here, and you could see that it held again, and that kept prices in this upper tier, this little range. It's really about a 9 or 10 point trading range with two levels, the higher level and the lower level. And it looked like it was going to be another good sell-off today, but it just didn't happen. And there's some good moves in here though. But let's talk about what we saw, and I'm going to move through this one pretty quickly today. It's late in the afternoon. I almost didn't do a lesson today, and there's really, you can go ahead and mark this one right here because that's a long too if you were still trading. But let me tell you what I saw as far as the trades real quick. Quite a few trades, and most of them are really good trades. And then we'll switch over and we'll go through the trades, and I'm going to wrap it up pretty quick like I said. But we had a little double top here with a little failed break higher. I was hesitant to enter here with all that overlap, but there is two legs up, and it was looking like a trading range, so I like this bar. But the thing is, if you tried to use a limit order here, you probably got left behind, and you just had to really use a stop. And I tried to use a limit order, so I missed this trade. But if you saw it, this is the danger of using a limit order sometimes. But it's a good short. It's really a second entry short. You got a new low here, first entry, pullback, second entry, and I just tried to get. I was a little bit greedy and tried to get a limit order, and it didn't get filled, and I moved it down, and it still didn't get filled. It just moved on down through there too quick, and so I missed that trade. But then, of course, you get down here to the double bottom, and it bounces. This is a second entry long right here. This one is one that you either got to use a stop or you can use a limit order. It did come back and fill it, but it gets a little harrowing watching it go that high to come back. So what I liked, the reason I like this one is because you had that little doji there first, and it broke lower and then moved higher. If you did enter here, you could have added on here or gotten in here, because now you've got two tries to go lower right there, a second entry long, and there was a little bit of a pullback in another entry, so you really even could have entered there as well. And but from here it was right up to the other side, and then you get this bar right here, and this time I used a stop, and this time the limit order would have worked, so it didn't matter either way. I got filled on this one with a limit order right there at the bottom. I was a little hesitant to try to get back in here, and you see you probably wouldn't have got filled. Then you got a chance. You tried to go higher when you got back below this line and turned back down, so short right there. And boy, this one was off to the races. And I wasn't expecting it. I figured we'd bounce here again, but this thing just took off like a rocket. And then you got a failed second entry long right there. So notice your new high, pull back first entry, move down second entry, it trapped people, so another chance to get short. And then we kind of got hung up here, but there's a nice reversal bar off that trend line right there that we're using. I was a little scared to use a stop right there, because at that point I had this down here, and it may still be down there. I moved it up a little bit later because it seems to fit better right there, and it still seems to hold the price action, but it may be right there, and that's where I originally had it. So I used a limit order here, a tick back in. It did get filled, and I think it got enough with a stop just as well. Let me just verify that before I tell you that. But even if you entered on 82, it got 81. Yeah, you would have to ride that pullback back if you didn't use a limit order. So, but then you got another chance to go short right here. That was the first break. And this one really I should have made in green. Let's just change it to green, because now that I look back at it, this line was a possibility here. I wasn't sure if it was right, but it kept bouncing prices down here. But what I was looking at was just how bearish that was, and I really thought we'd go on lower, so I felt like that was worth taking, and it did work out. And then when we couldn't go any lower, I just kind of watched until I knew we were making a, headed higher. And I liked this long simply because it's a failed second entry short. Notice the new low. You're pulling back first entry. Okay, I had an interruption there, but this was a failed second entry short. Look, notice the new low, first entry short, second entry short, it fails. Easy scalp. You had to ride it out a little bit. Unless you used a limit order here, it's doubtful you got filled until it went on through. But those trades fail very often, and you had to be paying attention to this trend line as well. There was a little bit of a break right here you could have considered, but maybe the line was just further down here. And so that was the way I was looking at it, that there was no break yet. So I wasn't too concerned, because I figured even if it came lower here, we were going to go make a new high, and it did, and so that trade worked out pretty good. Then we got two legs down. We did break through right here, but it reversed pretty quickly. At first I wasn't sure if this line was valid, but you can see that later on in the day it was indeed valid. It held all the way up through there, so I believe this channel is valid. And usually when you get overshoot on one side, you get a measured overshoot on the other, and you can see that's about what we got up here. And then it gets back in the channel. But I like this long right here. You can't see it with that in the way, but notice this. This is a higher low than over here, but then we go back and make a higher high. First entry short fails, second entry short fails, so that's another failed second entry short. And I felt like we were going higher then. And at this channel, and you notice that channel is back into play again and is holding. And so I like that long right there. I didn't really see anything. There actually was a short right here, and but I didn't like this bar, and I didn't like the way that it started from up here. It would have worked out, but notice you got a new high, pull back first entry, pull back second entry long, and it fails pretty quickly. It's inside that, so I didn't like going long there because of this line and the fact that it held right there. But I didn't like going short either, because I was afraid it would bounce off of this line and continue working up before it came down. But it did. It shot on down. And then guess what? You make another little bounce off that line. I actually like this because it was not only off that line, but it's a retest back inside the original channel, the upper channel. It took a little bit to work out. I got a little nervous. You might have gotten shaken out of that trade. If you did, I could understand why, because it just didn't go like it was supposed to. But that's not uncommon. Usually you need to wait for it to test something twice, and when it tested it here, it was worth going long right there. And that was it for the day. It was I didn't see anything. There's some other trades in here, but it's too late in the day. So but you can see that channel was valid all the way up there. We had the overshoot here and the overshoot there, and that might have been the fact that we had a break here. Might have been enough to have you take this short right here, because I considered that, but it was so early in this trend that I just didn't like it. And you can see it. Obviously, the trend wasn't over because we kept working higher. It's more of a range day than this is a trend day, although this is a trend from one end of the range to the other, like we talk about. And I had a conversation with another trader today about the lines and how they struggle with the lines and when you trust them and when you don't. First of all, you don't sell them blindly like right here. You wait till you get a setup, and then you take it. And those aren't really good examples of them, but here's one, here's one, here's one. But if you try and pick and choose, like if you just bought this one blindly, you might have you see it went a little further, but it still ends up going where you expect it to go. So do what works best for you, but it's my opinion that these lines are really going to help you. Without them, you don't know what's going on. And some of you may have seen this range with the equal move, and if I measure that, I'm betting it's exact move. I haven't even measured it yet. Let's just see. Actually, it's a couple of ticks difference. It's not much. It's close enough. But that's, that would have been how I would have found that's how I found my target and looked for where it to bounce. But I was using this trend channel before I was using that because I really thought we were going into a trend. But you can see that's exactly where we bounced, and that's almost a perfect measured move. But that would have been a good way to find this target. If I'd have been thinking about it at the time, but actually at the time we were coming down here, I was looking at this channel and following that channel and using the trend rules, and it still got me to the same place. It actually put me in that trade there where if I'd have had this line right across there, I doubt I'd have taken that trade. So it probably was to my advantage that I was giving this channel a little bit more weight than I was the range at that point, because I was thinking the range, this was the range and we were done and that we were trending down, but that wasn't the case. It just turned out to be a double range day. So, and it really wasn't clear yet that that's what was going on until we came back and tested it right here. It was obvious we were going higher, but I was looking more at this lines and these lines and the one that was moving up here. So, but that just shows you, you can get to the same place multiple ways a lot of times. Everybody doesn't have to see it exactly the same, but I will say when you see more than one reason, and here, this is a good example right here. You've got this channel working up, so that's keeping you thinking long. You've got this little channel working down. You had a break and a new low that reverses. Then you get a double test of that line. This is a higher low than there, so there's multiple reasons to be thinking long right there. And you see, it wasn't real fast, but that was a nice move up through there. And between these two moves right here, this one and this one, and there were runners off of most of these big moves. You're in pretty good shape. You made some pretty good money off just those two trades. So, but anyway, that's what I saw today. I'll back out where you can just see it a little bit more. And there's some other trades, like I said, that's not marked. You might have gone short right there. And I don't always mark them all, but and really, looking back, it was a good short right there too, because that's a second entry coming off that new high, and it's a fairly bearish bar. You could have used a limit order, another easy trade. So there were some opportunities that I marked the ones that I like that are the higher probability ones, but there's some other trades in there as well. So just because I didn't mark it doesn't mean that it wasn't a good trade. It's just not, I just don't like it for whatever reason, even though it might have still worked out. So, but anyway, I'm going to wrap it up, and we'll do it again tomorrow. But this is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.